My boyfriend's female friend is emotionally dependent on him. It's ruining our relationship.
I'm going to be so upset with this theme.
Yep. Thank you in advance for any advice. For context as to why I would be worried in the first place. I, 24 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 24 male, for about 7 months now. And he has a very close friend, 23 female, of about 3 years, who is seemingly a very nice girl.
Seemingly. But under the surface, she's a witch.
But the way they conducted the relationship caused problems for us in the past that have taken me a very long time to move on from, and I am still currently working on healing from. By the way, this comes from Deco Kim on the OKstorytime subreddit. So, no cheating of any sort happened, but they were a bit enmeshed. She seemed extremely dependent on him for emotional support, and he is the therapist friend who makes himself always available. This friend is extremely anxious and has a load of other problems that I have mentioned quite a few times to him that she should be seeking professional help for. But the main issue that she was having is that she is still hung up on an ex that she ended things with about 8 months ago. And her current dating life is not working out the way she wants it to. This has caused them to develop a relationship where she is heavily reliant on him to regulate her emotions and calls him daily and multiple times a day, or for him to be the first person she calls when she's sad about something, which was seemingly every other day from what I was seeing. For example, my boyfriend screenshotted his call logs about 3 months into our relationship to show me that my call to him did not go through, and I saw for myself that not only had she called him every day, but that Friday she had called him at 2 a.m., then again at 9 a.m., then again at 3 p.m., and then again at 6 p.m. At the same time I tried to call him.
So he kind of just outed himself. He was like, look, babe, I didn't get your call. I get 1,000 calls from my friend.
Seeing this freaked me out for multiple reasons, including this at the time we were barely speaking on the phone. We had a discussion in which I let my boyfriend know that the calls were a bit excessive, but I don't mind the daily calls as they choose to maintain the friendship with Discord gaming calls and phone calls instead of hanging out in person frequently. But calling at 2 a.m. for non-emergency reasons was something that made me extremely uncomfortable, especially considering him not sleeping well was causing him health issues. He spoke with her, and the super late calls stopped. He even set up the sleep routine on his iPhone so that she could not call him after a certain hour unless she called twice. And also, we started calling each other more. As far as examples of how this relationship has affected our relationship, we had a date day about a week before I saw the aforementioned call logs, where he pretty much talked about her and her problems the entire day, even as we were cuddling before bed, including calling her on the phone right when he sat down after arriving so we could help her calm her anxiousness after a date she had. Answering our calls while we are together, we only hang out one weekend day every week, and the calls were for her to chat about her day. That only went on a few times before he stopped after we had a big discussion about their friendship. We were unable to be intimate for a bit, and he mentioned at the time that I think what friend has been saying about how she doesn't want it to just be about spicy sleep with her next partner is getting to me.
So he stopped having spicy sleep
With OP.
because his friend had some concern around spicy sleep, but that feels quite concerning.
This is much more cause for concern than the last story. Even if it's not a romantic problem or relationship here, I think it's just kind of disrespectful. I mean, like if I were with a partner and they were just taking calls while I was there, I'd be like, okay, like long calls. I'd be kind of annoyed.
And then like have someone have a codependent relationship with him, telling him about like their problems and
then you also have to weigh in on it. And you're like, okay.
and seeking like for him to help her when any trigger comes up. And then him actually internalizing her concerns and having that affect your relationship like in drastic ways.
Weird. Again, we only see each other once a week on the weekend due to his schedule and occasionally twice. And he has mentioned potentially not hanging out with me in case he is too mentally tired. And when asked what he can do to prevent this in the future, the first thing he says is not take some of his friends' calls. On top of this, we're having issues because for about 2 months, he stopped planning our dates or initiating hangouts, as according to him, we have a shared calendar, so I just assumed we would be hanging out at some point during the weekend if we were both free. But after we had a discussion about this, he understood that him not initiating at all was making me feel like if I don't ask to see him, then I won't see him. I hate that. I hate that. Just the, like, when you have to put all of the effort into seeing someone, it's like, no.
Yeah, in a relationship, you want to feel like your partner is putting in effort to like connect with you. That's like a bare minimum.
A week later, he planned an outing with said friend and invited me along. Yes, I think it's fine to, plan outings with your friends and your partners, but I just feel like he's not prioritizing her, and the time that they do have, it's just about the friend still. There are more incidents that happen that are similar, but about a month ago, out of the blue, he asked me if he could start hanging out with either of his 2 female friends alone. He is introverted and in-person interactions drain him, so he only hangs out with them in person about once or twice a month. These are 2 separate friends who know of one another but are not friends due to clashing personalities. According to him, he had not talked to the friend this post is about for 4 days, Friday through Monday, as in they hadn't spoken on the phone and only sent one meme that Saturday. So he needed to catch up with her. And I'm not always free on the days they just want to grab a quick lunch. However, him asking this was still very off-putting for me because from the beginning of a relationship, he has had one-on-one time in person with both friends, and I have never mentioned an issue with this. He has never consulted me about getting lunch before with either of them, nor have I asked him to, and just puts it on our calendar. With the other friend, they see each other twice a month, their choice, and they were like this before me. Once alone, and the other involving me because she likes to invite me along to outing. For the friend this post is about, the main reason that they have not hung out alone in person as much is because she goes out of her way to ask him to invite me along to all the things they do in person. That just seems considerate. I feel like that's nice, yeah. All of their phone calls and Discord calls are just them 95% of the time, unless she specifically asks him to ask me if we can all game together.
It's the person this post is about. This is another female friend.
It says, for the friend this post is about, the main reason that they have not hung out alone in person as much is because she goes out of her way to ask me.
Okay, so the one he's enmeshed with
is asking to hang out with OP as well.
Okay, that's a good sign.
Honestly speaking, she has made a large effort to get to know me. Some would say a bit too much of an effort, as there was a month when I saw her more than my own boyfriend, but this is why my problem was not really with her, but more so my boyfriend. Yeah, it seems like she wants to be your friend because she's friends with your boyfriend. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it seems like she's trying to be respectful of the relationship.
Again, I think the problem is the boyfriend, for sure.
She's the one, the enmeshment is geared towards like her meshing with him, not necessarily the other way around. So it's still her actions of her treating him like as this codependent figure.
Absolutely. That's a good point. So I guess it's still both of them. But it's nice that she's involving OP.
Doing the actions and he's not putting boundaries down.
And when I've tried to have discussions about boundaries that I've brought up in the past, he usually just says that his friend is a girl's girl and always asks if she's doing anything that makes me uncomfortable, which is nice on her part.
That's good. I'm glad she's trying to respect OP.
We had a very long discussion about this friendship and our entire relationship, but ultimately it went well and allowed us to ask about a lot of things we should have discussed early on. The conclusion was that he has the right to hang out with his friends alone, and I'm okay with that. But as we discussed previously, he needs to take a slight step back from how he handles his friends' problems because it affects our relationship. However, a few days later, his friend messaged me directly asking if we could all get lunch together, which is very unusual for her to ask me about these kinds of group plans. And then when I mentioned to her that I recently talked with my boyfriend and I think they should get lunch alone because he mentioned they hadn't had a chance to catch up, instead of being like, oh, okay, we'll all hang out some other time, she calls me the next time and basically says that she asked my boyfriend to ask me if they could hang out alone because she was sad that her other male friend was not answering her calls for the past 2 weeks, and it made her feel like her friendships were changing, and she didn't want to feel like our relationship was dictating her friendship with my boyfriend. So OP was like, hey, you can hang out with him alone, like, don't worry about it. And then she was like,
I don't want to get in the way of this relationship because I don't want it to hurt my friendship.
This caused another discussion between me and my boyfriend, to which he explained, and I really do believe him, that he had already been thinking about this because she hadn't been calling him as much in general. So I think that maybe what's happening is that she's trying to be respectful in other areas. Maybe they've already had conversations about how much she was calling him. And now she's like, I feel like I can't be friends with him because of your relationship. I think that might be what the friend is saying.
But she's asking them all to hang out so that she could hang out with him because she's trying to be considerate. Let's just read on.
And so he called her first to ask if they could hang out sometime because they haven't actually chatted about what's been going on with her in a while, which led to her calling him back a day later, sad about the situation with the other friend, and her asking to ask me if they could hang out alone. From what I know from speaking with her, she decided to delete all of her dating apps and detox from social media and has been less depressed. I believe this is why she has not been calling my boyfriend as much anymore. But I did not want to point this out to my boyfriend as I feel like it would make their friendship seem a certain way. The situation caused drama between them because she had caused issues in his previous relationships in a similar manner. i.e., bringing in his then current girlfriend to a place she was very aware that his recent ex at the time hung out at. This whole ordeal genuinely weirded me out, and I decided to take a step back from trying to become close with my boyfriend's friend. And according to him, she felt very guilty about the whole thing. She had stopped contacting me for about a month, and I believe this situation is why, but has been trying to talk to me more recently, which I'm a bit unsure about if I want to continue to become closer with her, which you don't have to.
Ugly Old Bat says, I'll need a nap after this story. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's just a lot of back and forth, and just kind of, it seems like the friend is trying to be considerate, but is also worried about messing things up, and then...
But it kind of is, encroaching on the relationship, and then Macer's Racer said she's either considerate or self-pitying, which is kind of real.
Everything that I've mentioned are things that I have talked to my boyfriend about and have not been bottling up, so our relationship has been getting back on track. And he himself realized that his friend was a little bit too dependent on him and that it really was affecting him, so he has been starting to change in that aspect as well. This is the current dilemma. He's been mentioning on and off getting the same job that she has at her current job, which would be very good for him, and he has a very strong chance of getting this role. He explained to me yesterday that after his trip at the end of the month, he will go ahead and submit his application. However, them working together makes me wonder how it will affect our relationship. Maybe it'll be better because she won't have to call him so much. They'll just chat at work.
That's fair. Unless it's like remote and then she's just going to be calling him all workday. I think we just add to the same dynamic. It just feels like it would double the dynamic.
His current work schedule is why we only see each other once a week. So this new job would allow us to see each other more, probably twice a week, or 3 times if it's not too much for his mental health. As they are close friends, they will inevitably be getting lunch pretty much daily if they will be working on the same team in the same department, which is the goal. But in my opinion, I think all of the phone calls and whatnot would need to be toned down. I'm just very scared of our relationship turning back to what it was when she was more dependent on him, and he has a lot of great qualities, and honestly speaking, I am in love with him, but I do remember how I felt during the peak of those times. And so ultimately, I know that I would leave him if things start going back to that place of where I'm feeling like he prioritizes her over our relationship and making me feel like a third wheel. But we would never make you guys feel like a third wheel if you join us live every weekday at 3 p.m. on YouTube. Just tap our profile. And there is a little bit left to the story, but what are your thoughts? What does OP do?
It feels exhausting, this whole thing. Also, OP seems like pretty mature, pretty self-aware, and is like approaching it from a standpoint.
Doesn't seem like she ever said like, oh, I think they're cheating. It was just like, I think they're too emotionally dependent.
Yeah, it seems like 1, she's not jumping to conclusions. 2, she's not making demands with her partner. So much better than the last story. But at the same time, if you're worried that their friendship will go back to being even to as enmeshed as it was, or even more enmeshed, that's totally reasonable. Something that can be communicated. I imagine she would do it quite well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, she did it this well, so.
Yeah, and it seems like her partner is also respectful and aware of these things. And so I think just an honest conversation with both of them. I'm like, hey, what type of friendship do you want with your friend? What are you not willing to put up? Just so you know, this relationship affects our relationship.
I didn't appreciate how you treated me in the past.
Yeah, so like what boundaries can you put down and how will that look?
Yeah, I think that just a little communication can go a long way in keeping this relationship going healthy and strong. Is this something I should even bring up? Absolutely. Or should I wait to see if this will even be an issue, considering he has already actively been making changes with our relationship and his friendship? I think it's always okay to bring up things. You got to premeditate those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, like, intimacy is being able to know each partner's world and what is going on inside of it.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait until it is a problem. I want to explain to him that I have no problem with them getting lunches if they start working together. But I don't want it to turn into a thing where they're not only getting lunch daily, but still on the phone frequently and also starting to hang out more in general. Because he has told me before when they're working together when they first met, they used to do things together every week. And I guess a part of me fears how this will affect our relationship. I think deep down, I began to feel like he had feelings for her when all of the other stuff was happening. And it still affects me even though I've healed a lot from that. And also, I know he has never slept with any of his friends or dated them. And that is the end of that story. And props to OP for being like, I had those feelings. I know that he'd never do that.